Hi, I'm Rahel Philipose and you are listening to Three Things, the Indian Express News Show. In this episode, we talk about the brutal Delhi murder in which a 20-year-old man stabbed and clubbed his minor girlfriend to death. We also talk about a government official who drained a reservoir after his phone fell into it while clicking a selfie. But first, we give you an update on Manipur. Earlier this month, violent clashes first broke out between Manipur's two key ethnic communities, the dominant Meitei community and the Kuki tribes, over the long-standing demand for Meiteis to be included in Manipur's list of scheduled tribes. In the weeks that followed, at least 100 people were killed and over 100,000 displaced. This weekend, right before Union Home Minister Amit Shah arrived in Imphal, tensions between the two communities escalated once again, resulting in at least 5 deaths. Meanwhile, Manipur's Chief Minister N. Biren Singh has pinned the blame entirely on Kuki insurgents, an allegation that the Kuki National Organization has completely denied. In this segment, the Indian Express's Deeptiman Tiwary joins us to talk about the situation in Manipur, the growing animosity between these two communities, and Amit Shah's visit to the Northeastern state. So to start with, Deeptiman, can you talk about what's been happening in Manipur over the last few days?
So this tension has been going on since May 3, and what has happened over the weekend that, fresh violence has erupted, which has led to deaths of at least 5 people that we know of now, which actually again started from Chudachandpur, where there was some clash between Meiteis and Kukis. And let me underline that Chudachandpur is a Kuki-dominated area, and it abuts the Imphal Valley, which is a Meitei-dominated area. So on the borders, there are generally clashes between the communities. All those sporadic incidents have been happening for some time. Since May 3, every day, here and there, some burning, some scuffle, some struggle, something has been happening. But suddenly in Chudachandpur, in Torbung area, again some Kuki houses were burnt, and then in retaliation some Meitei houses were burnt, and then it just went on spiraling and spread to other adjacent districts, and then to Imphal and everywhere. So largely this is limited to the foothills where, the valley meets the hills which are populated by tribals, and a valley which is populated by Meiteis. And because since Meitei violence, the communities have, withdrawn to their specific geographical locations. So we are seeing skirmishes on these borders.
Right. And Deeptiman, Manipur Chief Minister Biren Singh recently made a very strong statement about Kuki militants. Could you talk about what the state government's stance is after the recent surge in violence?
Well, we all know that N. Biren Singh held a press conference and said that this entire violence in Manipur is being fomented by Kuki militants, and he specifically mentioned groups which are under a suspension of operation agreement with the Manipur government and the centre.
And just for the benefit of our listeners, suspension of operations means the suspension of violence. Essentially, when militants don't target security groups and vice versa.
Yes. However, and he said that 40 Kuki terrorists, and I quote him, Kuki terrorists have been killed. So these are like really harsh words being used by the CM for Kuki militant groups, which are actually in conversation with the center over a peace deal. And such statement actually does not augur well for the situation in Manipur currently, when both Meiteis and Kukis are at war with each other. So let's understand that N. Biren, the claims of Mr. Biren Singh are actually not really supported by people on the ground. The SOO groups have already said that the claims made by Biren Singh about SOO groups being involved is totally false, and all our camps are on government records. Our people, our members are there on their list is maintained by the government. And if members of SOO groups have been killed, then show us the list where it is. They are claiming that nobody from the SO groups have been killed by security forces. Our sources within the security forces say that there is absolutely no operation to target any specific community or any specific militant group, and security forces are merely engaging with people who are trying to create disturbance, or armed people who may or may not be militants or may not belong to any group but have armed themselves during this period of violence in Manipur and are actually clashing with members of another community. So in those operations, some people have been killed. In fact, sources also dispute the figure of 40. They say it is exaggerated.
Right. And you've written that right now, civilians are getting hold of arms and ammunition. So could you tell us how they're getting hold of these weapons and the impact of that on the current situation?
See, this is a very complicated issue in Manipur. And that is because civilians have armed themselves. It's like you're not fighting some known militant group. It's like you're fighting every second citizen. And the Kukis have begun to believe that the Meitei administration, of N. Biren Singh is actually targeting them. So they have lost trust in the government. Meiteis believe that the Kuki militants are targeting them. The security forces are unable to save them. So they have also lost trust in the government. So because of that, what is happening is that the civil society has taken law into its own hands. And this has happened by taking weapons from state armories or armed forces armories. Or we have reported earlier that Manipur Training College was looted of its weapons. 2 police stations in Imphal were looted of its weapons. 1 IRB battalion was looted of its weapons, and mostly by Meitei community in Imphal. There have been reports of certain police stations in Churachandpur, which is a Kuki-dominated area, also being looted, where Kukis have armed themselves. And currently what we know of is at least Meitei groups have 1,500 weapons currently, which is a huge amount of weapons in a small state like Manipur. And that is why it is becoming difficult to quell the violence. What we have also learned is that because there is such division between the two communities and there is such atmosphere of hatred, that people within the administration have been found to be helping, civilians get access to arms. And as one official told me, that weapons are not being looted, but weapons are being handed over. So the situation has become really worse. And even in the Kuki areas, the SO groups, which are in agreement with the government to not indulge in violence, are directly or indirectly helping Kuki civil society to gain access to arms, because they are under tremendous pressure to rise to the occasion and help their community when it is under attack or it is feeling under attack. So this entire situation has really restoring law and order, the task of restoring law and order in the state, very, very difficult, because the state administration in some or the other way is not fully functional.
Right. And Deeptiman, while this has been going on, the Union Home Minister, Amit Shah, arrived in Manipur on Monday. What is the main objective of this visit?
Look, there has been a clear division between the two key communities in Manipur, Meiteis and Kukis. And the two communities are really not talking to each other. Biren Singh has become a persona non grata for the Kuki community, who are saying that we do not trust him and we will not talk to him. So in such a situation, when two key ethnic communities of the state are fighting with each other, are at each other's throat, there has to be somebody who can bring them to the table and help them talk and resolve the differences and assure them of safety, so that this entire violence can be stemmed. And that is the whole purpose of Amit Shah's visit. He arrived in Imphal yesterday, late evening, and immediately held a key meeting, both to review the security situation in the state and to see how, both the communities can be brought together to resolve the situation.
And also on the last day, Amit Shah has held meetings between the Meitei groups and some of the tribal representatives. Could you tell us if these meetings have resulted in any positive outcomes?
Well, already certain decisions have been taken, which include, on the security front, that, people who have armed themselves need to be disarmed, and this violence needs to be stopped, and law and order situation needs to be brought under control, and security forces need to be given the freedom to do so. Then a compensation of rupees 10 lakh has been announced for the next of kin of those who have died in the recent violence. About 100 people are reported to have died in the violence. Then the other big challenge is ensuring uninterrupted supply of essentials in Manipur. Because of the blockade by various communities of the national highways, it has become very difficult to bring essentials, including food, medicines, and fuel, because of which the prices of essential commodities have gone through the roof in Imphal Valley. So all of that has been discussed and things are being worked out on that front. But most important part of the visit is to bring Meiteis and Kukis together, to resolve the differences that have erupted, to see what is the best possible solution so that, both Kukis and Meiteis, if not immediately, then at a later stage can coexist peacefully.
Dear listeners, before we start the next segment, a quick warning. This segment contains descriptions of extreme violence. And next we talk about an incident that has shook the national capital. On Sunday, a 16-year-old girl was brutally stabbed and clubbed to death by her boyfriend Sahil in outer Delhi's Shahbad Dairy area. The victim had just finished her 10th board exams and was an aspiring lawyer. When we spoke to the Indian Express's Arnabjit Sur, who's been reporting on the story for the paper, he told us more about it.
From what we have seen from the spot and spoken to her neighbors and family, she was very extrovert. She used to hang out with her friends most of the times. She seems like a person who was out and about.
And Arnab says that for the last couple of years, this minor girl was in a relationship with 20-year-old Sahil, who used to repair air conditioners and refrigerators for a living.
From the people we have spoken to, basically he was opposite what the minor was. He was an introvert. He used to go around in the morning or so, and he used to come back in the evening. He had a bike. He used to work in the neighborhood only, not a very large scale work that he had. But the neighbors did say that Sahil was whenever he used to interact, he was a little miffed about things. He used to give a response that is not very decent and something like that. So the neighbors didn't have a lot of idea about him, but they did say that he was a little aggressive. He was not very interactive like the minor was.
Now, a few months back, their relationship became strained after Sahil started suspecting that the girl wanted to get back with her previous partner.
And it worsened around 2 to 4 days back, when basically prima facie what police has revealed is that he was angry about the fact that they were not talking properly. She was basically not responding to his calls properly. So all of these are theories that are floating, and police is probing all of these. The exact reason hasn't yet come to the fore. What was the exact thing which made him go into the fit of rage and then kill her on Sunday evening?
Arnab says that on that day, she went out with a friend to shop for a birthday party. And while returning, she told her friend that she was going to the nearby public washroom to freshen up.
She told the friend that you go home, I'll use the public washroom and come back. So while she was on her way to the public toilet, which is also near her house, she was intercepted by Sahil, as is visible in the CCTV footage. In a corner, she was her back against a wall. There were a lot of stones there. There was one concrete slab. First, Sahil stabbed her multiple times while bystanders were, you can see, bystanders passing by. And he stabbed her multiple times. He took a concrete slab and then smashed her head, even as no one obviously helped. And this happened around 8 to 8:30 when she was on her way to the public toilet.
Now, what was alarming is that despite locals and bystanders witnessing Sahil stabbing the girl, nobody informed the police or anyone in the neighborhood.
Because a lot of the people in the neighborhood did know her, but nobody informed them. So basically the whole incident took place around 8:45 as per the timestamp in the CCTV. But coming to the PCR call, it was made around 9 to 9:35. So around 25 to 30 minutes, nobody called a PCR. The body was lying there, head crushed, and she being stabbed at least 20 times. So basically, as it's visible in the CCTV footage, one of the persons did try to hold the accused's hand and tried to intervene, but obviously because he was armed and rest of them were unarmed, according to them, nobody intervened, and most of them saw or crossed by that spot. It's a very narrow spot. Basically, there are a pile of stones and it's a very narrow alley. So not a lot of people can gather there. So most of them just walked by and just saw the incident and fled the spot. So one of the persons that I spoke to on the condition of anonymity did tell me that she didn't bother to intervene, according to her, because obviously the accused was in a fit of rage and he was not stopping, basically, as is visible in the CCTV footage. She said that she was scared, basically. And when she saw him hitting with her with stones and stabbing her multiple times with the knife, she basically got perplexed and fled the spot.
It took almost 30 minutes before a police informer got to know about the incident and informed the authorities.
The police delay wasn't there, but I would say that is also the standards for response are pretty good because the alley is very narrow, as I said. So even the area is so congested that it's impossible for the police PCR van also to enter through those narrow alleys. But the main lapse happened in the part of PCR, the bystanders. Basically, nobody made a PCR call. One of the neighbors whom I spoke to. I mean, I specifically asked that why didn't anyone intervene when there were so many people, obviously. He told me off record, most people don't want to involve themselves in such incidents. This area is generally a very, has an image where a lot of people are involved in petty crimes. Not to generalize the whole thing, but people stay away from these things because if they harm you, because the accused was very angry. So most of them just ignored and just walked past.
And so by the time the police arrived at the scene, Sahil had fled. But he was arrested from UP a day later, that is on Monday.
After the incident, he apparently went to dispose of the weapon in Rithala, which is nearby only. After that, he took a bus to Bulandshahr, because it's his basically paternal village. And according to the police, he stayed with his aunt for some time. And his aunt apparently called his father that he's here. And then when his father was taken into the custody, not arrested, but basically for interrogation per se, he told that, he's in Bulandshahr. So the police went to Bulandshahr and then managed to apprehend him from the aunt's house. So basically, his father was the one who gave the tip-off that he's there. And he's being taken to court as we speak. A police officer told me on Monday that most likely they'll seek a 2 to 3 days custody because first they have to recover the weapon of offense. Second, they also have to interrogate him as to what is the actual reason behind the incident. How long was he planning it for? Where was he hiding basically? Prima facie, he came on his bike. He got to know through some common friends that she was coming towards the public washroom. Basically he knew. So police planned to interrogate him on all those fronts.
Now, the entire incident also resulted in a political slugfest between the AAP government in Delhi and the opposition BJP, with the latter claiming that this is a case of love jihad.
Obviously, he's Sahil Khan, so basically the BJP is alleging that it's a classic case of love jihad, and AAP is putting the blame on the LG and the collapsing law and order state of the city, basically. So, about the love jihad thing, obviously, police isn't the one to comment because it's not related to the probe per se. But nothing of that sort has come across. It's just that he belongs to a different religion. That's about it. And it was a case of a person of a relationship that had turned sour. That's it. But obviously, political parties are alleging that because he used to wear a kalava on his hand. His family, most of them, even his father used to wear a kalava on his arm. So that is something that they are pointing to. But there is no legitimacy of it pertaining to police probe. Also, the AAP has been alleging collapsing law and order. Coming to the police point of view, that is per se a little questionable. Why? Because this is a matter of personal scuffles. Obviously, in those areas like Reservoir Dairy, which is in outer Delhi, law and order is comparatively there is less deployment and there is no stringent police protection that is given in those areas. But like per se law and order, this doesn't constitute a law and order issue. It's more of a personal scuffle that ultimately led to such an issue. But both parties are basically throwing mud on each other regarding the thing. And obviously both of them are asking for stringent punishment for the accused.
And in the end, we talk about Chhattisgarh. Last week, a government official named Rajesh Vishwas went for a picnic with his friends at Parakold Reservoir in the Kankar district. And while he was taking a selfie there, his phone fell into the reservoir. And after 2 days of the phone being submerged in water, this 32-year-old food inspector drained water from the reservoir to recover his phone, and which inevitably sparked a controversy in the state. To know more about the issue, my colleague Utsa Sarmin speaks to the Indian Express's Jayprakash Naidu.
So Jayprakash, let's begin with why did Rajesh decide to retrieve his phone? Because when a phone falls into 10 feet deep water and is there for 2 whole days, it is safe to assume that it is pretty much unusable.
Yes. So when the Indian Express contacted him, he said there were 2 reasons for trying to recover the phone. One was that he bought the phone just 2 months ago and he was very upset that he would lose a phone, a Samsung S23 Ultra, worth rupees 95,000. This was one reason. Second one was that he wanted to recover the phone, but it was the local villagers who insisted him that they can find the phone for him. So he's claiming that the villagers who knew swimming, they dived in to find his phone, and 2 days later, when they could not find the phone, they suggested to him that the water is 10 feet deep. So if the reservoir is drained by 3 feet, they will be able to recover his phone. That's his reasoning.
Right, and one would assume that permissions would be required to drain a reservoir. So did Rajesh get permission to do this?
Yeah, so he said that there were 2 things. One, he kept saying that the water in the reservoir was useless. It was not being used. It was used only for bathing purpose by the villagers. And secondly, he said that that's the reason why he called a sub-divisional officer of the Water Resources Department and said that if he's allowed to drain 3 feet water from the 10 feet water, would that be fine? And he claims that he got an oral permission from the sub-divisional officer of the Water Resources Department, after which he went ahead. He went and got some 2 diesel pumps and he paid some 7,500 for it. And then they, over a period of 2 days, they removed that water.
And could you tell us how much water did Rajesh manage to drain to get his phone back?
So, see, this happened on May 21 on a Sunday when he accidentally dropped his phone. Then after 2 days on Tuesday night, he went and brought those diesel pumps and started pumping the water out. This went on for 2 days till Thursday. So now on Friday, when the matter came to light, prima facie, the local administration felt it was 21 lakh liters of water. But then the same day, Water Resources Department did their own evaluation and they said it was 4104 cubic meter, or you can say 41 lakh liters of water.
And Jayprakash, the entire issue sparked a controversy in the state where even the former Chhattisgarh Chief Minister Raman Singh commented on what had happened, right?
Yeah, so what happened is the former Chief Minister Raman Singh, he was quick to pick up the issue on Twitter. And then it was a bit embarrassing for the present Chief Minister Bhupesh Baghel. So Raman Singh said that, this under his regime, the government officials are acting as the government property is their own property. So this didn't go down well with the Chief Minister. He quickly retorted saying that the food inspector has been suspended and an inquiry has been ordered. And the district collector, Kanker, was the one who issued the suspension order. Her name is Dr. Priyanka Shukla, the collector. She also not only suspended the food inspector, she also issued a show cause notice to the SDO, sub-divisional officer of the Water Resources Department. And so as per the latest updates, the Water Resources Department has issued a notice to the food inspector, Rajesh Vishwas, asking him to pay a fine of rupees 53,000 as punishment for draining the water. And another show cause notice has been issued to the sub-divisional officer of the Water Resources Department by his senior, saying that why action should not be taken on you and why the money should not be deducted from your salary for wasting so much water. And the latest update is that the money is still not been paid by the food inspector. and he has been given a time of 10 days to pay up the money. And the secretary of the Water Resources Department will be taking a final call on what action will be taken on the subdivisional officer and on the food inspector. The subdivisional officer is saying that he did not give any permission to the food inspector, Rajesh Vishwas, and he's saying that the food inspector is entirely responsible for the incident.
You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was hosted by me, Rahel Philipose, and written and produced by me, Rahel Philipose, Shashank Bhargava, and Utsa Sarmin, who originally spoke to Arnabjit Sur for the Delhi segment. It was edited and mixed by Abhishek Kumar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone who you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at @Express Podcasts and write to us at podcast@indianexpress.com.